Once again, I would like to welcome you to this channel. So today we'll be taking up a chapter, Lost Spring, written by Jung. Now this chapter, Lost Spring, is actually an excerpt or a small piece which has been taken out from a book titled The Lost Spring, Stories of Stolen Childhood, written by Jung. Now, before we begin, let us look at the significance of the title, Lost Spring. The spring season is the most beautiful season. Similarly, childhood also is the most beautiful period of one's life. So, here, spring refers to childhood, or the childhood is a metaphor for, spring is a metaphor for childhood. In this piece, Jung talks about the children who have lost their joys of childhood due to the socio-economic background that they come from. So, in other words, we can say that these children have lost their childhood or the joys of childhood. They have been deprived of the joys, and hence the title, Lost Spring, Stories of Stolen Childhood. This chapter is divided into two parts. The first part is titled, Sometimes I Find a Rupee in the Garbage. And it talks about the life of rag pickers, or the impression that these community of rag pickers have on Jung. And the main character here is a boy named Sahib Alam. The second part talks about Mukesh, who happens to be the son of a bangle maker. So on the one hand, she deals with the community of rag pickers, and the other, the community of bangle makers. All these people have been deprived of their joys of childhood. So Lost Spring, Stories of Stolen Childhood. Now here, in this chapter, she analyzes the grinding poverty and tradition which condemn these children to a life of exploitation. This is the main theme. She talks about her impression of these people who have lost the joy of their childhood. Let us begin now. Sometimes I find a rupee in the garbage. Why do you do this? I ask Sahib, whom I encounter every morning, scrounging for gold in the garbage dumps of my neighborhood. Sahib left his home long ago, set amidst the green fields of Dhaka. His home is not even a distant memory. There were many storms that swept away their fields and homes, his mother tells him. That's why they left, looking for gold in the city where he now lives. Now, this first part talks about Jung's impression on the people or the community of rag pickers. She sees a boy, Sahib, who comes regularly to her neighborhood to collect garbage. So she naturally inquires, why do you do this? This is the question that she poses to Sahib, whom she encounters every morning, looking, scrounging. Scrounging is searching for gold. Gold here means something precious and useful in the garbage dumps. Now, she gives us a little background of the place where Sahib comes from. Sahib and his family had migrated from Dhaka, and he does not remember anything about the place where he migrated from. His mother tells him that there were many storms which would sweep away their fields and homes, and that is why they left that place looking for opportunities in big city. Here gold means looking for gold, looking for opportunities in big city where he now lives. Now, when she had asked him this question, why do you do this? Why do you resort to rag picking? The answer is simple. I have nothing else to do, he says. Go to school, I say glibly, realizing how hollow the advice must sound. Now, her suggestion and advice to Sahib is go to school. And then immediately she realizes how hollow the advice was. Because if he had that opportunity to go to school, he would have. But he is forced to earn his livelihood because of the socio-economic background that he comes from. And that is why he resorts to rag picking. There is no school in my neighborhood. When they build one, I will go. If I start a school, will you come? I ask, half joking. Now, for her, it might be a joke. She does not realize at this point what she spoke. Now, she says, if I start a school, will you come? Now, she is only joking. Yes, he says, smiling broadly. A few days later, I see him running up to me. Is your school ready? Is your school ready? He asks her. And it takes longer to build a school, I say, embarrassed at having made a promise that was not meant. Now, when she encounters a question from the boy about the school being made or not, she feels embarrassed because she had made that remark in a joking manner, but the boy had gone serious and he really wanted to get that opportunity. So she feels embarrassed at having made a promise that was not meant. But promises like mine abound in every corner of his bleak world. Now, Jung says that although she feels bad for having made a promise that was not meant, but she says that these are not the only promises that are made to these people. Many people make various types of promises to these people which are never fulfilled. So, in one way, these people are used to these empty promises, false hope being given to them every time. After months of knowing him, I ask him his name. Sahib-e-Alam, he announces. Now, she one day asks his name, and then he responds by saying that his name is Sahib-e-Alam. Luckily, the author feels luckily, the boy does not know the meaning of his name, which is the Lord of the universe. Sahib-e-Alam means the Lord of the universe. Luckily, he does not know the meaning of his name because he would have a very difficult time believing it, unaware. He does not know the meaning of his name, and that is why he roams the streets with his friends. Who are his friends? An army of barefoot boys. He moves along with his friend, an army of barefoot boys, and they appear like the morning birds and disappear at noon. They are like birds, appear early in the morning, disappear at noon. Over the months, I have come to recognize each of them. One day she asks one, why aren't you wearing chappals? My mother did not bring them down from the shelf, he simply answers. Now, do you think that might be the reason why he is not wearing chappals? But maybe he is trying to hide. Even if she did, he will throw them off, adds another who is wearing shoes that do not match. When I comment on it, he shuffles his feet and says nothing. I want shoes, says a third boy who has never owned a pair all his life. Now, she gives us an impression of the deplorable condition of these children who have lost the joys or who have been deprived of the joys of childhood because of the socio-economic condition that they come from. They are having no chappals. They are referred to as an army of barefooted boys. They yearn for shoes, and they have never owned a pair all their life. She says, traveling across the country, I have seen, she has traveled far and wide, and throughout the country she has seen children walking barefoot. She has seen people walking barefoot in cities, in village roads. And one explanation that these people give is, it is not lack of money but a tradition to stay barefoot. I wonder if this is only an excuse to explain away a perpetual state of poverty. Maybe. So the answer that they give is it is a tradition, but maybe in one way they are trying to hide perpetual. Perpetual is everlasting state of poverty. They do not want the other people to know how difficult their life is, how difficult their condition is, and in how much poverty they are living in. And that is why they say that it is a tradition to stay barefoot, when in reality it seems that maybe they do not have the means to procure even chappals. I remember a story a man from Udupi once told me. As a young boy, he would go to school past an old temple where his father was a priest. He would stop briefly at the temple and pray for a pair of shoes. 30 years later, I visited his town and the temple, which was now drowned in an air of desolation. In the backyard where lived the new priest, there were red and white plastic chairs. A young boy dressed in a grey uniform, wearing socks and shoes, arrived panting and threw his school bag on a folding bed. Looking at the boy, I remembered the prayer another boy had made to the goddess when he had finally got a pair of shoes. Let me never lose them. The goddess had granted his prayer. Young boys, like the son of the priest, now wore shoes, but many others, like the rag pickers in my neighborhood, remained shoeless. Now, Jung narrates a story. She says she remembers a story a man from Udupi once told her. That man, when he was small, his father was a priest, and every day while going to school, he would go to the temple and pray to God for a pair of shoes. So, talks about the poverty and the priority which changes with time. So, he would pray every day for a pair of shoes. Now, 30 years later, Jung visits the same temple and sees that now the condition has changed. There has been some changes with the passage of time. 30 years later, I visited the town and the temple, which was now drowned in an air of desolation. In the backyard where lived the new priest, there were red and white plastic chairs. A young boy dressed in a grey uniform, wearing socks and shoes. Now, at one point of time, 30 years back, the son of the priest did not have a shoe. So every day he would go to the temple to pray for a pair of shoes. But today, the condition has changed. Maybe with education, the scenario is a little different now. The son of the new priest who is there in the same temple is wearing a grey uniform, who has a socks and shoe, and he is a school-going kid. Looking at the boy, I remember the prayer another boy had made to the goddess when he had finally got a pair of shoes. Let me never lose them. Now, this is the limitation. Look at the limitation of their dreams. What is their hope and what is their aspiration? What are their demands? Simple. First, they demand a pair of shoes, and after they get a pair of shoes, the next demand is let me never lose them. Luckily for these people, the goddess had granted his prayer. The condition has changed now with the passage of time, 30 years. The condition has changed now. The goddess had granted his prayer. But there are many others, young boys like the son of the priest, like many others, like the rag pickers in my neighborhood, remain shoeless. Some people have their wishes fulfilled. Some changes have taken place in their life, but still there are so many young boys who are living in her neighborhood who resort to rag picking and they remain shoeless. My acquaintance with the barefoot rag pickers leads me to Sima Puri. Now, after knowing them, she goes to know about the place where they come from. And then she gets to know that these people, they come from Sima Puri. Where is Sima Puri? Sima Puri is a place on the periphery of Delhi neighborhood, nearby vicinity of Delhi, yet miles away from it metaphorically. Physically, definitely it is very near to Delhi, but when you talk about metaphorically, it is miles away from it. Reason is Delhi is the capital of the country, and Delhi is connected with civilization, everything posh, whereas these people are living in a deplorable condition, and that is why metaphorically or symbolically, allegorically, these people, although they live nearby Delhi, but they are miles away from it. Those who live here are squatters. Squatters means gypsies who came from Bangladesh back in 1971. So she gives us a background of these rag pickers. These rag pickers had migrated from Bangladesh in the year 1971, and at that time they came to Sima Puri. Sima Puri was then a wilderness. Sima Puri did not have much development at that time. Sima Puri was then a wilderness. It still is, but it's no longer empty. Now, nothing has changed with time in Sima Puri. Only thing that has changed with time in Sima Puri is it is no longer empty. Now, only the population has increased in Sima Puri. Otherwise, the condition has remained the same, but it no longer remain empty in structures of mud with roof of tin and tarpaulin, devoid of sewage, drainage, or running water, live 10,000 rag pickers. They have lived here for more than 30 years. These people have lived in this very place for more than 30 years. Still, they do not have any identity without permit. They do not have any permission also to stay there. But with ration cards that get their names on voter list to enable them to buy grain. Although they do not have any identity, they have ration cards. What is this? This is political. This is political corruption. Although they do not have an identity, they are distributed ration card so that they can vote, and with the help of these ration cards, at least these rag pickers can buy some grain. So they say food is more important for survival than an identity. They are not worried that they do not have any identity. They say that food is more important than an identity. That is why they are happy with that limited gains that they get. If at the end of the day we can feed our families and go to bed without an aching stomach, we would rather live here than in the fields that give us no grain. Say a woman in tattered, torn saris, when I ask them why they left their beautiful land of green fields and rivers. Whenever she questions those people why she left the place, their hometown, they say that that place did not give them anything. The floods and storm would sweep away their field and homes, and that is why they came here. And if this place can provide them with little bit, it is better for them to stay in this very place. Wherever they find food, they pitch their tents that become transit homes, temporary homes. Now, wherever they find place, they pitch their tents, and that become their transit home, temporary homes, and children grow up in them, becoming partners in survival. And their children are not dependent, but they are partners in survival. And survival in Sima Puri means rag picking. If you have to survive, you have to resort to rag picking. There is no other means. And partners, children are also partners, because if they have to survive, they have to work along with their parents. Otherwise, they will not get food. Through the years, it has acquired the proportion of fine art. Now, rag picking also has acquired the proportion of fine art. What is a fine art? Skill. It has acquired the proportion of a skill, of an art. Garbage to them is gold. Garbage to them is gold, precious. It is their daily bread. It is with the help of garbage only that they earn their daily bread. It is because of the garbage only that they have a roof over their head, even if it is a leaking roof. But for the child, it is even more. I sometimes find a rupee in the garbage. A 10 rupee note, even a 10 rupee note. Now, Just imagine if a child can find a rupee or a 10 rupee note in the garbage, will he stop looking? No. So, it seems that for the children, garbage is a meaning different. It seems for the children, garbage has a meaning different from what it means to the parents. For the parents, for the children, it is wrapped in wonder. For the elders, it is a means of survival. Now, Anish Jung says that Sahib Alam's face lights up when he says, or when he tells Anish Jung that sometimes he finds a rupee or sometimes a 10 rupee note in the garbage. So it seems that the meaning of garbage is different from the child, for the child and the adult. For the child, garbage is wrapped in wonder. It is something which is a thing of mystery, mysterious. Sometimes they may find 10 rupees, sometimes they may find something else. So each day they go to the garbage dump to find something precious, and then they remain curious and enthusiastic. Whereas for the elders, it is a means of survival, because whether they find anything useful or not, they have to resort to it, because that is the means of their daily bread, that is the means of their livelihood. So the meaning of garbage is different for children as well as adult. One winter morning, I see Sahib standing by the fence gate of the neighborhood club, watching two young men dressed in white playing tennis. Now one day she sees Sahib watching two boys play tennis in the tennis court. And then when she inquires about it, Sahib says that he likes tennis, but it is beyond his reach. He also knows that it is beyond his reach, but sometimes he says that the watchman allows him to enter the court and to use the swing. Sahib too is wearing shoes that look strange over his discolored shirt and shorts. Now somebody had given those shoes, or may have discarded those shoes, because those shoes had holes in it and they felt that it was not fit to be worn. But however, Sahib is wearing one of those shoes. For one who has been walking barefoot, even shoe with a hole is a dream come true. Now, although it is discarded shoes, but it does not matter to Sahib, because even shoes with a hole is a dream come true for him. But the game he is watching so intently is out of his reach. This morning, Sahib is on his way to the milk booth. So after a few days, when she meets him again, she finds him walking to the milk booth. This time, he has started working in a tea stall down the road. He is paid 800 rupees and all his meals. So when the author Anish Jung asks him whether he likes the job or not, his face loses the carefree look, because the steel container or the steel canister seems heavier than the plastic bag he would carry so lightly over his shoulder. The bag was his. The canister belongs to the man who owns the tea shop. Sahib is no longer his own master. Sahib has lost his freedom at a very young age. This is not the age for Sahib to start earning his livelihood or to start working under someone. This is the time when Sahib should have been enjoying the joys of childhood. But unluckily, due to necessity, which has forced him to work for a tea stall owner who gives him 800 rupees, now, today, he has lost his independence also. Previously, he was free to go or to choose whether to go or not for rag picking. But today, he has to obey the command of the owner or the tea stall owner, because he is working under him. Sahib is no longer his own master. So with this, we come to the end of the first part. That was about Sahib Alam. Now we'll move on to the next one about Mukesh. I want to drive a car. This is the title of the second part. This is what Mukesh dreams of. He wants to become a motor mechanic. He wants to be his own master. Do you know anything about cars? I ask. I will learn to drive a car, he answers, looking straight into my eyes. Now, till now, Mukesh is very confident. He tells the author that he will learn how to drive. His dream looms like a mirage amidst the dust of the streets that fill his town, Firozabad, famous for its Bengal. Every other family in Firozabad is engaged in making bangles. Now, he comes from Firozabad, and Firozabad is known for to be the center of India's glass blowing industry. Firozabad is the center of India's glass blowing industry, where families have spent generations working under furnaces, welding glass, making bangles for all the women in the land, it seems. Now, although he does not know how to drive, but still he has a dream. I want to drive a car, he says. And then he is confident. He says, I will learn to drive. And he looks straight at the eyes of the author. Mukesh's family is among them. The people who are engaged in the glass blowing industry, in making bangles. Now, these people do not know that it is illegal for children like him, like Mukesh, to work in the bangle industry with a glass furnace with high temperatures in small cells without air and light. If the law is enforced, they could get all those 20,000 children out of the hot furnaces where they slog their daylight hours, often losing the brightness of the eyes. Now, these people are unaware of the law also, that it is not permissible by law for small children to work in the glass bangle industry. And if the law is enforced properly, then they will be taken out from that deplorable condition where they work, because of which they lose the brightness of their eyes. Mukesh's eyes beam as he volunteers to take me home. Mukesh is very happy when he gets an opportunity to take Anish Jung home, which he says is being rebuilt. We walk down stinking lanes choked with garbage, past homes that remain hovels with crumbling walls, wobbly, shaky doors, no windows, crowded with families of human and animals coexisting in a primeval state. Now, where is his home? Although he is proud to take Anish Jung home, Anish Jung sees the deplorable condition, the pathetic condition that these people live. Wobbly doors, she passes through stinking lanes which are choked with garbage. And then the walls are crumbling, falling off. Shaky doors, no windows. And humans and animals are living in a kind of primeval state. He stops at one door of one such house, bangs a shaky iron door with his foot and pushes it open. And then they enter a half-built shack. In one part of it, thatched with dead grass, is a firewood stove over which sits a large vessel of sizzling spinach leaves. On the ground, in large aluminum platters, are more chopped vegetable. A frail, very weak young woman is cooking meal for the whole family. Who is she? She is the wife of Mukesh's elder brother. Now, Anish Jung accepts the invitation and goes to his house to see the condition that these people live in, and then she finds the conditions are pathetic. And then she sees that a frail young woman is cooking food for the entire family. And who is that? She is Mukesh's elder brother's wife. Not much older in years, she has begun to command. She is the Bahu of the house, the daughter-in-law, already in charge of 3 men. She is taking care of 3 people in the house, 3 men. Her husband, Mukesh, and their father. When the older man enters, she gently withdraws behind the broken wall, brings a veil down close to her face. As custom demands, daughter-in-law must veil. They must hide their face in front of the male elders. In this case, the elderly is a poor bangle maker, but still they follow the tradition. Despite long years of hard work, first as a tailor, then a bangle maker, he has failed to renovate a house, send his 2 sons to school. Now, his father, in spite of working his whole life, first as a tailor and then as a bangle maker, was unable to even renovate a house, to repair a house, or send his sons to school. The only thing that he has managed to do is to teach them what he knows. And what is that? The art of making bangles. This is what the father has given to his son. He has given them the art of making, or taught them the art of making bangles. Now, Mukesh's grandmother, has one explanation. She says it is his karam, his destiny. She feels that it is a God-given lineage. Can a God-given lineage ever be broken? She implies. Now, can it be a God-given lineage? Did God will people to be born in the caste of bangle makers? And according to her, it is their karam. So karam cannot be changed. She implies, born in the caste of bangle makers, they have seen nothing but bangles. In the house, in the yard, in every other house, every other yard, every street in Firozabad, spirals of bangle, different colors, sunny gold, paddy green, royal blue, pink, purple, every color born out of the 7 colors of the rainbow lie in mounds, heaps, in unkempt yards, are piled on 4-wheeled handcarts pushed by young men along the narrow lanes of the shanty town, dirty town. And in dark hutments, next to lines of flames of flickering oil lamps, sits boys and girls with their fathers and mothers wielding pieces of colored glass into circles of bangles. Everybody in the community are engaged in the art of making bangles. You can find boys and girls sitting along with their parents making bangles in the town of Firozabad. Their eyes are more adjusted to the dark than to the light outside. That is why they often end up losing their eyesight before they become adult. Even before they reach adulthood, they lose their eyesight because of the dangerous condition or unhygienic condition that they are exposed to while making bangles. Savita, a young girl in a drab pink dress, sits alongside an elder woman shouldering pieces of glass, and her hands are moving mechanically like the tongs of a machine. She moves like a machine. She doesn't have to look. So she is so used to making bangles that her hands move like a machine. And the poet wonders whether she knows the purity or the sanctity of the bangles that she helps make. It symbolizes, bangles actually in the Indian society symbolize the suhag or auspiciousness in marriage. Suddenly one day it will dawn on her when her head is draped with a red veil, her hands dyed red with henna, red bangles rolled over her wrist. She will then become a bride. Maybe the day she becomes a bride, she will understand the sanctity or the purity of the bangle that she helps make. She will then become a bride. Like this old woman beside her who became one many years ago, she still has bangles. Now, she is sitting next to an old woman making bangles, and maybe she will understand the sanctity or the purity of the bangle that she makes, like when she becomes a bride. Like this woman who still has bangles in her hand, but unluckily she has lost the light in her eyes. And then she complains, that woman complains, एक वक्त शेर भर खाना भी नहीं खाया. This is what she has not enjoyed even one full meal in her entire lifetime. She has not enjoyed even one full meal in her entire lifetime. That is what she has reaped. Her husband, an old man with a flowing beard, says, I know nothing except bangles. All I have done is to make a house for the family to live in. Hearing him, one wonders if he has achieved what many have failed in their lifetime. Now, he is proud. He says that I know nothing except for making bangles, and all I have done is to make a house, although it's a thatched house. But hearing him, we are forced to wonder that maybe he has achieved what many have failed to do in their lifetime. The cry of not having money to do anything except carry on the business of making bangles, not even to eat, rings at every home. Every household has the same story to tell. Everywhere you go in Firozabad, everywhere you'll hear the same thing, that they do not have anything to eat. Young people also speak the same thing like the old people. Little has moved with time, it seems, in Firozabad. Years of mind-numbing toil has killed all initiative and the ability to dream. So there is no ability to dream also. Nobody dares to dream. And the labor that they put in order to make bangles have killed all the initiative in them. Now the author questions them, why not organize yourself into a cooperative? I ask a group of young men who had fallen into the vicious circle of middlemen who trapped their father and forefathers. Now she asks them why they do not organize into a cooperative, and their answer is that even if they get organized, they are the ones who will be taken by the police and dragged to jail for doing something illegal. There is no leader among them, no one who could help them think differently or see differently. Their father are as tired as they are. They talk endlessly in spiral that moves from poverty to apathy to greed and to injustice. They speak the same thing. Everyone speaks the same thing. And then they speak about the poverty, they speak about the apathy, they speak about greed and injustice that is prevalent in the society, because of which they cannot develop and they cannot progress. Listening to them, I see two distinct worlds. Now, when she meets them, she knows that they are two different worlds. One of the haves, the other the have-nots. One side we have the privileged, the other side the deprived. On the one side we have the rich, on the other side we have the poor. I see two distinct worlds. One of a family caught in the web of poverty, burdened by the stigma of caste in which they are born. On the one hand, we have these underprivileged section of the society who are stigmatized by the caste that they are born in, because of the social background that they belong to, stigma of the caste in which they are born. The other is the vicious circle of sahukars, the middleman, the policeman, the keepers of law, the bureaucrats, and the politicians. So there are two different worlds. One world is the world of these underprivileged section of the society who lose their joys of childhood, and on the other hand we have the sahukars, the middleman, the policeman, the keepers of law, the bureaucrats, and the politician. Together what these people have done is they have imposed the baggage on this child that he cannot put down. They force these people, means these are the people who are not letting the underprivileged section of the society to come up. They conspire against them and they impose the baggage on the child. As soon as he is born, as soon as the child is born, they burden that child with the different workload. And because of that, as they grow up, they accept it as naturally as their father. To do anything else would mean to dare, and daring is not part of their growing up. So if you want to break this vicious circle, you have to dare. But there is nobody in that society who can dare. There's nobody in that society who can dare. And daring is not part of their growing up. Luckily for Anish Jung, she sees that Mukesh dares to break the vicious circle, to drop the baggage that has been forcefully put on his head and become a motor mechanic. Now he is trying to change his profession. He doesn't want to remain in the caste of Bengal maker. He wants to become a motor mechanic. And so Anish Jung is happy to see that there is somebody at least who can dare or who dares to dream. When I sense a flash of it in Mukesh, I am cheered. Why? Mukesh says he wants to become a motor mechanic. I want to become a motor mechanic, he repeats. He will go to the garage and learn. But the garage is long way. I will walk, he insists. So he says, does not matter. So still, there is confidence in him. Okay, when she tells him that there will be difficulty in order to learn to become a motor mechanic because the garage is a long way from your home, he says, I will walk. So that means he is determined. He is daring. So Anish Jung wants to know whether Mukesh will be able to realize his dream or not. So she poses a question and tries to check out the possibility of his dream turning into reality. She asks him, do you also dream of flying a plane? He's suddenly silent. No, he says, staring at the ground. In his small murmur, there is an embarrassment that has not yet turned into regret. He is content to dream of car that he is hurtling down the streets of his town. Few aeroplanes fly over Firozabad. Now, by this question, Anish Jung is trying to ascertain whether his dreams are realistic or not. So she asks him, are you also dreaming of flying a plane? But Mukesh gives a realistic answer. He says, no. He has hardly seen any aeroplanes flying over Firozabad, but there are a lot of cars. So his dreams are realistic, he says. Means he wants to become a motor mechanic. So definitely with the daring nature, with the willpower, with a little bit of determination, Mukesh will be able to fulfill his dream and become a bangle maker. So with this, we come to the end of this chapter. So once again, let me tell you that this story, Lost Spring, deals with the deplorable condition of the poor children who get forced to miss the simple, joyful moments of childhood because of their socio-economic condition. These children are not given the opportunity of schooling and are compelled to start working early in life. The author Anish Jung strives hard to eliminate child labor through her book. She wants education for these children and enforcement of strict laws against child labor by the government. So, with the story of Sahib Alam and Mukesh, she makes a plea to end child labor, to end the exploitation that these people suffer from, because of which they are devoid or denied the simple joys of childhood. With this, I hope that you have understood this chapter. Thank you very much. We'll meet again in the next video.